Alright, folks. Gabe Donnelly here again. It's Monday, March 25th, 2024. And this is, I guess, the 7th episode? Yeah. Of my sort of impromptu YouTube series, just chronicling this horrendous life insurance scam, fraud / plan, orchestrated by my mother and her unscrupulous, ruthless partners. And so it's a situation that, as I say in all the beginnings of these, is still ongoing. We're still in the middle of it. I'm still in the middle of it, and it's really scary. And I think communicating that, yeah, this is just my attempt to communicate what's happening to everyone and anyone, and yeah, so this is gonna be a hard episode. So the last one, episode 6, chronicled leaving Jacksonville, heading north and to Savannah, to Savannah, Georgia. And really, it's pretty stunning that the last episode, it's about 45 minutes or whatever, that was just basically like one night in Savannah. I mean, yeah, I guess I didn't really even realize until I left that, made that video that, yeah, it's like four pretty, serious attempts on my life in that one evening. However a person wants to sort of listen to that, or sort of sum that up. And in each instance, it's just like I've got to be just really at my best and on top of my game to not take sort of like one step, in the wrong direction. It's really, I don't know. This is more than like burdensome and just hard and frustrating and all that. It's just more than like a human. Like I say a lot, I'm not a Navy SEAL or a Marine or anything like that. I'm a pretty just average person. And like this kind of stuff is so far away from who I am, and you would expect like people to be caught up in this kind of stuff to, I don't know, just have a sort of violent past, a violent reputation, or just a sort of a nefarious type of operator, but I don't have any of that, and it's just, in your heart what things you want to do, kind of, in in the world, the things that you'd be doing otherwise, and it's just really I don't really know how to communicate it without being too melodramatic about it, but I don't want to be doing this, and I really want to be, I think when you're in your 40s, like sort of intellectually and mentally, I felt just my absolute best in my 30s, and just sort of my sharpest, and you know who you are, and you know where you want to go, and it's a really great time, I think, and I do feel frustrated that so much of my time has been sort of robbed, like doing these things, like having to whatever, like avoid horrible things that I didn't want to have anything to do with in the first place, and it's really upsetting. Yeah. So, sorry, that was just like a rant by me, but this is gonna be hard because so the last episode, it left off at Jacksonville, and then we Jacksonville, Savannah, and we sort of, the action picks up From there, leaving Savannah, after that, absolutely, like, terrible night. Another one. So I start driving north, and I don't know where I'm going to go again. I was driving up the freeway, South Carolina, North Carolina, get into Virginia, get to Richmond. Thought I was going to stay in Richmond, but it was like a pretty rough area, to be honest, and it's hard to find a hotel and that kind of thing. And so we kept going to Washington, D.C., which is not that far. It's actually not that far away, really, from Savannah to Washington, D.C. It's kind of a long day's drive, I guess, but it was less time than I thought. And I was just, trying to keep these episodes to a minimum, but I can always circle back and kind of talk about some of the stuff that happened in Washington, when I started getting close to Washington. But so at this point, Mongoose is still with me. We've had those two instances where I turn my back for a second, somebody opens the door, utilizing this key fob vulnerability. But even in that moment, I don't know that it's I'm not aware of this key fob security vulnerability. I'm just thinking that it's like somebody, one thing I thought was maybe somebody has another key, period, but that turned out to be not correct. But I had a conversation, harkening back to episode 4, talking about Alicia, the person who sold me my car. I had a conversation with her about this very subject, about like, hey, something's not right. Is it possible that, this is like months prior, is it possible that, I was missing this little piece of paper that shows the number. Basically, if you needed to get a new key fob or a new key, you would need that, and I was missing it. And so I called her, and I said, hey, I have concerns about this. Something's not right. Like, it shouldn't be missing. And like, what would I even do if somebody had my credentials and they could just get another key, and they get in my car? And she like pretty much blew that off, and I just thought, yeah. But it was something that I definitely explored, in the months prior, because I just felt like something wasn't right about that being missing. And I felt like, I'll just leave it at that for the moment. But anyways, so I get into Washington, and remember, after the previous experiences in both Jacksonville and Savannah, now I'm pretty skeptical of staying in a hotel at all. There's no way I'm gonna, like, yes, we're talking about dying, but it's also the way you're dying, of being trapped somewhere and being trapped and hemmed in like that, is a terrible way to die. But so I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm really scared, and who wouldn't be? Like, how do you get the situation to go away? I haven't done anything wrong, right? I haven't done anything to deserve this, sure, but like, how do you get it to stop? You can't. It's a life insurance scam fraud. The whole idea of it is that you have to die for everyone to get a massive payoff. It's frustrating isn't the word. It's just like, literally, what do you even do? And I'm a resourceful person, an independent person, creative enough, and I'm willing to talk about things with people and sort of like, share the way I'm feeling. And it's just like, it doesn't even matter when somebody's, when you're being like blitzed to this degree and so, in order for what I even describe in this 6th episode to occur, it starts to hit you like, well, Jesus, this has got to be a lot of people involved in this. And like, yeah, duh. Yeah, it is. And that's another thing that's like, it's so hard for me to wrap my head around that. I say it a lot, like, I'm not this important of a person typically, but in the context of being someone that has to die for it to make, to get my mother and, her partners these massive payouts that they're expecting, that they're, going for, suddenly I am an important person, like, in all the wrong kind of ways. And yeah. So there's 10 minutes on that, but I don't know how else to really put it into. I just don't want to have any of these, videos ever come across as like I'm, experiencing some sort of like sense of adventure or anything. I'm just trying to save my life, and it's, so getting into Washington, what happens is that they, what happened with them trying to take Mongoose or abduct Mongoose, it wasn't an accident. Those incidents in Savannah, and folks, like, remember, when I'm driving all the way up, like, I'm being sort of just, whatever you want to call it, followed or surrounded is the better term, a whole way. I guess a great way to describe it is, no matter what I do, I can't drive and be whatever, like, be alone, or like just, break away from a group of people. Now, this is a really apparent, like, driving on the freeway, like, between, like, whatever, South Carolina and Richmond, there's like all kinds of exits. There's just like nothing around. And so what happens is, you notice is that you can't get free of people no matter what, which is totally, like, obvious that it's yet another sign of what I'm saying is occurring, and to the degree that I'm describing. It's so easy. Like, I've traveled the freeway system in the U.S. for a lot of time, many times in my life, and the U.S. highway system and rural roads, urban roads. It's very easy to actually get clear and go and find a place, whatever, to take a leak, to be out there by yourself. Like, the idea that you can't get away from cars is like it's so in your face, like, obvious. And so that's occurring all the way up, no matter what I do. You could just imagine it. Like, imagine how frantically you'd be trying to, I'm looking for any reason I can for any evidence for it to leave me alone, or let me be, or just, like, for it to stop. But it's there on top of me no matter where I go, white on rice. And so that's a new thing too, because I don't even know that. Like, going from city to city, you don't necessarily know ahead of time that this situation is sort of immune to geographical travel or concerns from whoever's doing this. They don't care. Like, wherever I go, they'll follow me, and they've got, it's a lot. It's a lot to wrap my head around. And so I expect that too from people who listen to this. But certainly, if you listen to any number of the first few episodes, you'll understand for sure. So getting to Washington, I drove pretty much like I got a late start from Savannah because I was driving around there for a little while. So I ended up getting to Washington at, like, it's the middle of the night, and so that would be Tuesday night, so Wednesday? Tuesday night? I don't know, one of those, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there. But during the day, I was, I got out of my car. I was parked I was in McLean, Virginia, and I was just organizing just some stuff in the front seat, and for a while. It's taken me a while. Mongoose is back there in the back seat, and at some point somebody came by and they opened the door, and Mongoose ran out. This time, while I was, had the front passenger door open and kind of was just like organizing stuff and, just collecting garbage and just organizing, Mongoose's cat litter and just kind of getting everything straight. They came by and opened the door. They opened the door and Mongoose ran out, and I immediately knew it. And so I of course, like, run after Mongoose. It was on this street in McLean called Whittier. Usually what happens when I get Mongoose, or when Mongoose, like, he's so reliable that I oftentimes, when just on the drive, I would go somewhere and I would just, like, let him out like a dog, because wherever he go, he comes right back to me. Yeah, and okay, here's what happens is that I start, just, the street's busy enough that I kind of initially worried that, I don't want to get hit by a car. So I just try to corral him, and he's a little afraid because suddenly traffic picks up there on that street. And so I try to corral him, and what happens is, you wouldn't believe it. Like, again, hang on to your hats. So, like 3 minutes, it couldn't have been even 3 minutes. It must have been 2 minutes. So I'm calling Mongoose's name. I'm just trying to corral him, and it looks like he's sort of went underneath this car. So I just, got down into the concrete and the sidewalk and was looking underneath these cars. About 2.5 minutes into it, a so-called policeman comes up to me, drives up, and approaches me and says, "Oh yeah, we got a call that somebody called the police and said that somebody was out here, I don't even know, like frantically, what do you say, acting all crazy, trying to get their cat," or something like that. I can't even explain how outrageously just, like, malicious it was to even say that to me. Like, my cat, like, somebody comes by, opens the door, my cat runs out there, and I'm just, like, naturally trying to corral him. Like, what else would I be doing? And so it turns out that these guys, the first guy is dressed in ostensibly a policeman's uniform. He has a gun, all that, and he's driving a car that kind of looks like a squad car. But a second guy shows up. He tells me to go in this parking lot. All right, and so I move this car into the parking lot to talk. And it turns out to be a really critical situation, because this is like minute 3 to minute, let's say 8 of Mongoose being out. I need those minutes to corral him. So it's not an accident, people. All right, obviously, like, a guy comes in, opens the door. All right, Mongoose runs out. All right, and then I go after him, and then somebody says, "Oh yeah, the police want to talk to me because somebody somehow called the police so quickly to say that I was doing something wrong." And so all they do is they just hold me for 5 minutes. The guy goes over my license. He doesn't even do anything. Another guy pulls in the parking lot. It's just a burgundy, kind of a beat up sedan. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? And a guy gets out. Ostensibly, it's another cop, but it's a guy. He's like in like shorts, and he has a vest on, but he looks at me and kind of like giggles a bit, like almost like he's not pulling it off. I'm just like, oh my god, like, what can he even do? I'm not in a position to, like, point the finger at, like, I know it's a totally bogus, like, call, like, that's totally fabricated, obviously. But as far as whether or not they're real cops or not, like, I don't have the ability, or, like, what did he even accomplish? I just have to sit there and wait for them to be through with me, and they take a really valuable 5 minutes from me. from Mongoose do. And I've never seen Mongoose ever since he's gone. That was a month ago. I think it was February 22nd. So what happened was as soon as I'm free of these, whatever you want to call those guys, I'm calling Mongoose's name, Mongoose, everywhere, running up and down the streets. And I don't know he's gone at that point. It's just like every minute that goes by, it's more and more alarming, because not only do I not see him, I don't hear him. There's just no way he wouldn't run away from me. And so I'm calling, and minutes turn into hours, and I'm sort of traversing this area up this hill. There's a volunteer fire department. I'll post another video of the geographical area of what I was going through eventually here. But I walk into there's a vet clinic, or a shelter. I let them know, hey, if anybody comes in here, I'm looking for my cat, and it's a surreal. The whole thing is surreal. Like, I know something's wrong, but it's just the other part of it is Mongoose is so good at not being caught by other humans. Like, he would never want to be captured by anyone other than by me. And it's so important to him. He's just so trusting of me, and knows how much I love him and care about him, and would never hurt him. And it's just really awful what happens to him. I'm at it for 4 hours, from like 11:30 to about 3:30, and it's about 3:30 in the afternoon that I go to this place where again, I'll post a video, but there's an area behind a shopping mall, like a strip mall, and that area happens to sort of this borders on this nature preserve. And so I drive to the back of that area, and that's when I hear him. I hear Mongoose. I hear him 100%, and he's meowing like at the top of his lungs, like distress call, like, yeah. I hear him, and so initially I'm just thinking, okay, I'm moments away from corralling him. It's somewhat exciting, and so I hear him, and he's meowing. It's a really distressing call, but I can't find him. And so there's this wooded area, and there's like all these thorns and stuff, and I just went through there. I couldn't find him, and then there's a fence there with a hole, with a passage in it, and on the other side of the fence, in that forested area, is where these nicer houses are. And so it's very nebulous where the noise is coming through from. Meow, and he doesn't meow it's not like he's meowing consistently. I would hear 2 meows in a row, but it's so faint, and I hear it like in this, only in one particular area. But so initially I think that he's gotten caught in one of these houses that are bordering on the in this fenced in area. And so I go to these houses, and I knock on the door, and I explain to them the situation. I hear Mongoose. It's not good. He's trapped somewhere. That's the thing, is he's trapped somewhere, and he's frantically meowing, and he's really, I've never heard him just so frightened and scared, and something's like urgently wrong. And as a result, I'm dying. I am dying, and I've just got to find him. And so I go to these 3 houses kind of close together on the other side of this fence, which one side is the parking lot, back of the parking lot of the strip mall area, and the other side of the fence is this area. And so all 2 of the 3 people answer. One doesn't, which is weird because the garage was open and their cars were in there, but they won't answer no matter what, which is strange. But the other 2 people, one was nice, seemed kind of nice, but the other one, God, how to explain this? The other one was a little standoffish, but kind of humored me in terms of, oh yeah, you can look around our house type thing, right? Look. I just didn't want people to think that, whatever, it's strangers, buzzing around, just want people to know that, hey, I'm looking for my pet. One thing though that really comes through is it's clearly an emergency situation. I hate having to bring that up a lot. I would say that he's trapped somewhere. It sounds like he's running out of air. And so it's like 3:30, 4:30. I'm running back and forth. I'm just pouring down sweat. And I would run out for a little bit further to this wooded area, and I wouldn't hear him at all. And so then I would run, to another. I'm only one person, so I'd run back the other direction. I didn't hear him there. I would only hear him in this one spot, and it's the spot where there's these big industrial dumpsters there, and then there's behind this parking lot, and there's also this gigantic metal storage container. I'm sorry, this is just really hard. So the storage container thing, I noticed when I got there at 4, the area where the houses are, it overlooks the parking lot a little bit, so you can kind of see. And I noticed when I got there that somebody was coming out of that storage unit and they left it open. So I actually asked them. I said, "What was, looking for my cat? What's going on?" Basically, I got the feeling that maybe somebody had, put him in there. But then when I went into the storage unit, it was really creepy. They had it's a big storage unit. It had all this heavy stuff set up, and you can't, or like in it. And then they had these searchlights in there, like almost tailor-made for. And so I went in there, I forget, like at 4:45 or so, and I called Mongoose, and I didn't hear his name there, or I didn't hear him meowing then, but something wasn't right, and I got this really overpowering feeling about being in that storage container. And I just thought to myself, my God, if I'm in here in this metal storage, if somebody is just on the other side of that door and they shut it, like, I'm done, or anybody would be done. Especially in context of being in these cell site simulator network where you're calling 911, you don't get through. Like, that's a pretty serious thing. It's not like, somebody, it's not the normal situation where, if I get caught in a horrifying situation like that. Remember, I'm single, right? Nobody knows I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm here for the first time ever. If that door is shut on me and I can't get out, and it's like this heavy door you locks from the outside, I die in there. Yep, I would die in there. And I got that feeling there, and I just said, I don't know, I gotta get out of here, like out of that storage unit. I got out of there, and right after that, maybe 15 minutes, this guy comes running down the trail on the other side of the fence, and he says to me, I hear it too, I hear it too, meaning these, frantic distress calls by Mongoose. Initially you think, it's somebody who's trying to help. You think, okay, I hear it too. He's gonna help join me in the search, right? Like, what else would he be doing? I guess that's how it is in anybody else's life but mine. But really what becomes clear is this guy, he doesn't say where he's from or where he came from. That happens later. It turns out that he's from, apparently, one of the 3 houses that I went and knocked on the door. It was an Asian lady who answered the house that he ends up being from, but he doesn't announce that to me initially. I just think it's a guy, like on the trail. There's a wooded area and there's a trail there and all that. And so he says that, oh yeah, I hear it too. And, you know, it just turns out that he's there to give me misinformation. And he says, oh yeah, you know the areas that I would check? And he gives me 2 areas that are totally ridiculous. Like one of the areas is up by the fire department, which is way far away from where Mongoose is, and where this, you know, this frantically, you know, he's meowing. Yeah, he's meowing. And the other area, he tells me to search a dumpster, but it's another far away dumpster. And it just turns out that he was there to give me misinformation. In other words, I was onto something with that whole storage unit thing. And it wasn't dark yet. It was like 4:30 or 4:45. And so this just tears me to pieces. I don't know. I think I could have saved, maybe could have saved Mongoose if I just tore through that storage unit, or I don't know, did something that didn't have me in there for so long, type thing, you know. Then this guy disappears after sort of like telling me that he hears it too, and he ostensibly ascribes as much, you know, urgency to the situation as I do, but then he just tells me to look in areas that are totally, you know, not even a possibility. And so I just should have seen it better, that in the moment that he was trying to get me to waste more time, so that when I finally got to the storage unit and gave that, you know, it would be dark then, and you know, people would be a lot less people out of the parking lot and all that. He didn't really reveal himself to be as just sinister as I figured it out in the end. But what happened is that, so I just continue frantically looking for Mongoose, and about another hour goes by, and see, I'm looking in these dumpsters too. Like I looked in there, and I called his name, and I went, yeah, again, I'll post a video with the, but this is terrible. So what happens is that I hear about 5:45 or maybe 6 o'clock-ish, there's a guy who is close to me, and he has a cell phone conversation that's clearly in range of me, like right next to me, and he says, you know, to whoever he's talking to on the phone, yeah, he's buried underneath whatever, like eight pallets of blah 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 in the dumpster. In other words, he doesn't come up to me and say that, but he has a conversation with me very close, or conversation with somebody else that clearly is meant to get me to react like, oh my God, Mongoose is buried underneath the dumpster. Yeah. And so what I do, okay, I guess another thing I should go back and talk about is that there's a period of time from, let's say, 5:30 to 6 where that guy who came along and said, oh, I hear it too. Well, by going back to those 3 houses, I discover that he is I don't know, the significant other of one of the women that opened the door for me and talked to. I don't know, right? So he sort of continues to, though, mislead me by saying, oh, hey, let me get your phone number. Let me get your phone number. And, he says, I'll text you or call you if I hear anything, later on, and you can come down. Like, it didn't make any sense. Like, we're already hearing him now. And, like, the idea of me, like, quitting to go somewhere else, while Mongoose is, like, at large and suffering and like dying or trapped somewhere, it's like unthinkable. Like, what is this guy even talking about? Like, he's gonna message me when he hears Mongoose, like, when he knows more or something like that. So I give him my number, and I don't ask him for his name at that point. He doesn't give me his name, but he doesn't message me or call me. It's just really weird, because normally when people do that, they'll get your number, then they send you a message like, hey, this is so-and-so. So he doesn't do any of that. And then he asks me, oh, so where's your... He wanted to know where I was staying that night. I was like, so where are you staying at? Just creepily. Like, and so this is taking place on his deck, and I'm asking him more questions, like, well, maybe he's underneath your deck here. And he said, oh no, this area is all walled off. He seemed to be pretty knowledgeable about the house, like, so maybe he lives there. And so, okay, so that goes on for a while, but all the while he's not joining me in the search at all. It's so bizarre. And so and he's like, I don't know, a guy in his 40s. It's not like nothing was physically wrong with him or anything. So, yeah, what happens is that, though, when the other guy makes the phone call and sort of, yes, at that point, it was overwhelming urge to like dive into, to go back. What was I doing at that point? I was by the fence, by that hole in the fence. But I was really careful about going back there. It's dark at that point. Going back to the very rear of the parking lot. Like, yeah, see episode 6 about, what happened in Savannah. But yeah, when I hear that guy say that on the phone, the urge to go digging through the storage unit, that metal storage unit, to where he said Mongoose is buried underneath blah, blah, blah things, it's indescribable. And, thing about Mongoose is that he's so friendly and loving, and he doesn't understand, like, any of this stuff about, like, how ugly, like, human beings can be to each other. And he's just so, he loves me so much, and he's just so peaceful and good. And the thought of him being trapped by these people and, put in a position where he's buried alive and just barely able to breathe for a short amount of time and is dying alone. Man, it is unbearable. That's what they did to him. And he suffocated, like, slowly, and died. And I can't. It doesn't get any better. Like, it's been a month. It's not normal grief, okay? It's not like we lose pets and we lose people and animals, and it's hard to say goodbye, but, like, just the thought of what they put him through. just the horror that he felt being alone and just dark and not being able to get to me and screaming out, help, hey, help. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live, but I'll have to live with that. I don't know how to, it's just unbearable, I'm sorry. Folks, these people are ruthless, okay? I don't know how many of these episodes it's going to take for me to get through this, but the reason that they took Mongoose, right, that they abducted him, especially that third time, and separated him, they used him to put me in a situation where they would have, like, just buried me in that storage unit, okay? And I was correct in that, in staying out of there. I'm not sure if you've ever seen I don't watch horror movies. I did happen to see the movie Saw, the first one, I think. You know, at the end of that movie, it's like really awful. But this guy gets slammed into this, a similar situation, slammed into the storage unit, and the other guy, it's like in the middle of nowhere, and it's clear that he's just going to die in there, like in the dark, slowly, and just nobody's coming. And so that's the situation that they had set up for me. And if you've seen any of the other episodes or just thought about this situation with the life insurance scam, you have to understand how perfectly congruent that is with the idea of they would know I'm dead, right? Certainly, in that situation, you know, slamming the door in that really heavy storage locker, they would know I'm dead, but nobody else would, right? There'd be no missing persons report. There'd be no investigation. I wouldn't be able to get through to 911, yada, yada, yada. Folks, it's so important that you understand that not just what did happen, but what essentially would have happened in that scenario. That's the power of getting Mongoose and burying him alive in that situation. We both would have been buried alive in that storage unit, and that would have been that. Okay? And that's all their riches and all the paychecks and the, you know, getting the ranch and the what I described in episode 5 that talk about you know, like everything is accomplished perfectly in their eyes by doing that to me. And so that is the ruthlessness and these people, they don't care. There's nothing delicate about this, and it's, yeah, like these are the people that my mom works with. There's no other possibilities. Also, I don't have any enemies. I'm not involved in any crap ever. I don't have any skeletons in my closet. Really, I don't. I don't have a criminal record. I don't have weapons. None of that. So yeah, just think about that in that situation. Yeah. And so that's what was waiting for me. It was terrifying. And in that moment, I didn't run. I ran back to that house, which it's not that far away. It's like maybe 50 feet, 75 feet. So I ran there and I said, hey man, you know, I heard a phone call. I explained the phone call. The guy said that, you know, Mongoose is buried underneath like 8 pallets of whatever debris in there. You know, can you come help me look for him? Can you help me? And so he immediately was like looking at me like he saw a ghost. He said, yeah, I'll just, you know, meet you over there. I thought to myself, meet me over there? Like, did you hear what I just said? Can you just help, you know, you help me just pull this debris out of there and all that? Because my car was actually parked to the, you know, so he wanted me to take my car, drive around the street, basically get around that fence to drive it around out back. So that way they'd have, yeah, my car accounted for as well. And so they, yeah. So I say, okay. But I wait for him to walk out of his house and sort of walk down to the fence. And I say, hey man, I didn't catch your name. What's your name? And he looks at me and you can tell he doesn't want to give me his name at all. He says, He pretends to answer something else that I didn't ask. He says, "Oh yeah, just over here. I'll meet you on the other side." I said, "No, man." I said, "What's your name?" And he looked at me. He said, it's not somebody's name, by the way. Dennis. I said, "Okay, good to meet you, Dennis." That was hard to get his name out of there. I'm not sure if it's his real name or not, but I tell you, I could pick him out of a lineup for sure. But I know what house he came from. It's like 1510 Longfellow. I know it. I was there. At length, I discussed on the back deck with him, like, how well, whatever, guarded or insulated the bottom of the back deck was. See if Mongoose could get back through there and all that. So and I gave him my number, and he said he's going to call or text me, but he didn't actually do that. He made sure not to leave any trace. So Dennis is a pretty big liability for these people, right? Because, so he goes back there, he walks back there, and he thinks I'm driving around to basically go back there and die. But that's not what I do. Obviously. I sort of play action faked like I pulled in the parking lot, but then I immediately did a 180 and got the hell out of there. And just as I was doing that, the convoy of these people in their SUVs was coming, essentially, to cut anyone. Notice the pattern again of hemming somebody in and also walling off other people from getting in. And as I did that, as I exited the parking lot, I saw them coming in and looking at me. I rolled down my window and they looked at me like, whoa, wait a minute. Isn't that the guy we're supposed to be trapping in here? Why is he coming out? I saw it. So, I was crying, and I try to dial 911. Don't get through. That's 3 times now. Don't get through. It doesn't do it. It just drops the call. It drops the call. So then I drove to 7-Eleven, and I said, it begins a new chapter of me frantically going to businesses and just asking them, "Hey, can you call 911? I mean, does this sound familiar? Like from January 15th? And frantically call 911. Look how many times it happens now. This is what happens on January 15th in Las Vegas. It happens in Jacksonville in the hotel room where I'm trying to get other people to call 911 for a serious emergency because I can't do it. It doesn't let me get through, and having to explain to them. But this is like a slam dunk. I'm just a citizen. Excuse me. I need to dial 911. Either you can dial it, right? Or hand the phone over to me, or I can dial or you can dial. But either way, and so time after time, people say no, I don't want to, or no, okay, or like it's crazy. And so I would just run from business to business, and ask, and they said no. And then so I went to residential areas. Nobody ever called 911. No matter how many people. Folks, you think about that. I am not a hysterical, like, weirdo, like, sneaking up and scaring anybody like that. In a situation like that, I'm succinct. I'm presentable. Like, yeah. And Mongoose, I don't know if he's still alive at that point, If one person calls 911, right? And you see, he gets rescued. You have to understand, like, what the stakes are for the people who did that to Mongoose to make sure that police or emergency services don't get back there, right? And don't see that, because once Mongoose is found or whatever, rescued, it's going to go, well, who did this? Who did this? Who's responsible for this? I'm just having a really, really hard time. Yes, I miss Mongoose, but as a pet owner, it was never about, like, my satisfaction. I just loved and just delighted in seeing how, like, Mongoose gazing out at the world and, knowing how happy he was, and just delighted in just the security and the sense of, you know, the warmth that he felt and the love that he felt for me, and that's what, you know, I just miss him being alive for his sake and enjoying my company and just knowing that, yeah, I don't know, that's what it was always about for me. So yeah, I'm having a really hard time. Just can't. It's hard to live with knowing what, you know, his last few hours was like.